This is Alan Wheeler, and this video is, I believe, number 6 in the playlist I'm making called Morrigan Moments. This is my channel that has been about tarot and spirituality, and I've been invoking the Great Queen, the Irish Morrigan goddess, and my disclaimer has been that you can apply this, what I'm referring to as personified deity, you can apply to your own worldviews. If you're a Christian, perhaps it's a face of the Holy Spirit. If you are an atheist or agnostic, perhaps an aspect of self, part of the divine Om, archetype, or part of the collective unconscious, in different branches of psychology. But nonetheless, I think I said it's at least a shortcut to accessing wisdom and mystical experience, and at best actually does access a higher wisdom. And so your mileage may vary, as we say on the internet. The question for today is, how does courage feel? What does courage feel like? And I drew one Ogham stick, and from the Irish symbols based on the trees, and also the corresponding card from the Celtic Tree Oracle by Sherilyn Hidalgo. So on top of that, my process was to shuffle and spread through the Smith-Waite Tarot Centennial Edition and find the Strength card with its depiction of the lion, and use that as a starting point. And then the following three cards I would use in a spread for the reflection. When I got done shuffling, lo and behold, I turned the deck over to spread through, and the Strength card was on the very bottom. So I just used the three cards on the top of the deck, which would have been following. Had I cut the deck, they would have been the three following cards. So that's what I have here. I did a little looking at some articles online and a lot of quotations about courage. And without doing a works cited or anything, I just gathered my thoughts and wrote some down. And so with about 5 preliminary thoughts, I'll look at the spread and then tell about a trance visualization that I had on this subject. So here are 5 thoughts. One is the familiar thought: courage is not lack of fear, having no fear, but rather it's facing our fears and dealing with them, confronting them. So sometimes when we say someone is fearless, that could be good or bad, but actual courage is facing the fears and anxieties that we naturally do have. Also, another thought is that courage is sometimes mundane. It's just, it's not glamorous or heroic, but just keeping going, just not giving up. So it might not be that a person is more noble than others, but simply that person kept at it 5 minutes longer without throwing in the towel. A third thought is that sometimes courage arises from our passion. We're defending something that we love or something we know strongly, in our heart. So that can be a source of courage. So that courage could feel loving or passionate, rather than some abstract idea perhaps that we have. Number 4, courage can arise from choosing to do what's right, what we know is right, even when it's difficult. So just kind of following our conscience can sometimes be an act of courage. So courage could feel that way. And lastly, number 5, courage requires sometimes a leap of faith. And so it can be borderline foolishness in one sense. We don't know the results, but from whatever source, doing what is right, having the love or passion for something, that perseverance, confronting the fear. So from whatever source, it can produce that leap of faith. So let's start with the 3 cards. So I did find strength first, as it appeared on the bottom of the deck, serendipitously or synchronistically. And these were the following 3 cards: the 6 of coins, the 7 of wands, and judgment. Here's how I interpreted those. The 6 of coins reminded me of this idea of generosity, as this figure is sharing with others. So in the physical realm of the either material belongings, wealth, or serving with some kind of skill or ability, represented by the pentacles, it's rather than thinking only of the self, that reaching out to others, that kind of balancing of the scales. And this can be maybe that mundane aspect of courage that I spoke about, or arising from that doing what is right, and from a sense of love as well. 6 being associated with the Lover's card, that harmony. The 7 of wands reminds me that sometimes we're energized when we take the higher ground. So that, again, that could be choosing to do what's needed, choosing to do what's right. So it can feel like that. In answering the question, how does courage feel? It can be that rising up of energy to do what needs to be done. And finally, on the archetypal level of the major arcana, we have the trumpet call represented on the judgment card. And so in this case, I think it's that moment of truth, that almost liberating freedom to act at the proper time. And so those cards did indeed speak to me of the feeling of courage that comes with courage. Now, the Ulam stick that I drew was this one, and Idha, which represents the aspen tree, and it can represent nobility. It's associated with the kings of Aspen, perhaps. But it's also, the leaves of this tree are known to shake in the gentlest of breezes. So it speaks to me of that sensitivity, to be moved by the blowing of the wind, the trumpet call, that moment of need, and being moved to action, not being numb and insensitive to the situation or those around us. To me, that feeling of caring can be akin to courage. Again, in answer to that question. To close here, let me just share kind of a visualization I had during meditation yesterday. Very simple, really, and it began as I saw in my mind's eye, the bubbling of what looked like pancake batter. And as you may know, when pancake batter, it's in the circles, frying in the pan, and when it's about time to turn it over, it begins popping with little spots, little bubbles around the surface of the batter. And I was seeing this in my mind's eye, and I had two senses or conceptions simultaneously. One was, we're waiting too long to turn this over, and it's going to be too dark or burned on the other side when that pancake is flipped. The other simultaneously was that the spots bubbling on the batter were like the spots of a leopard. And flashing through my mind was leopard, panther, lion, and that it was just giving me that association with courage through those animal associations. And at the same time, I was concerned that these are not going to be perfect pancakes, and the timing is a little off, and we need to flip these over. My vision suddenly shifted to a battlefield scene, and I was with people with M16s firing in a war scene, and someone to my right fired a big rocket launcher, and suddenly the order came to take the hill, and it was time to surge forward to accomplish an objective. And the visualization stopped there, but my sense, my inner knowing, was that this is messy and rough, and there was no feeling of perfection, like having the perfect shot in a basketball game, or the perfect dive in an athletic high dive or something. It was just a chaotic scene when that moment came and the order came through and we all rushed out. And so it came to mind that this is how courage is. It's what happens in the midst of life. It's messy, and it doesn't necessarily feel right, or the perfect flow may not be there, but it's doing what needs to be done in the moment, when the trumpet blows, when the order comes, when the pancakes are ready to turn over, even if it's just that mundane situation. That can be courage too, just going on in the daily. So I will stop there, but as always, I hope you feel a connection with people in your life, in online community, and on your spiritual path, whatever that might be. Take care.